Today we have the privilege of hearing from Andrew Crapuchettes. He's the founder and CEO of RedBalloon. Let me tell you a little bit about him. RedBalloon CEO Andrew Crapuchettes is a longtime business leader, entrepreneur, and innovator in the technology industry. He has founded several successful tech-focused companies and is widely considered a global pioneer in the development and use of labor market data analytics, an industry he helped found over 20 years ago. Getting his start in Silicon Valley in the late 1990s, Andrew earned his reputation as a top gun for tech company systems innovation and problem solving. He moved to the Inland Northwest in the mid-2000s, where he served as the founding CEO of MZ, now Lightcast, which brought market-changing innovations to how higher education, corporations, and governments approach the labor market. In 2021, Andrew founded RedBalloon, which has quickly become America's largest connectors of employers and employees who prioritize a positive workplace, culture-free from the divisiveness of cancel cultural mandates. Crapuchettes is a frequent presenter at technology and business conferences and a frequent guest on business and technology news and influencer podcasts. He will be speaking today on the topic, a perennial theme, don't be lazy. It'll be a warm welcome for Andrew Crapuchettes.
Full disclosure, I did not write that introduction. My team did. So Isaac's here, and if you have questions, they're good questions. I have candy that I plan on throwing to you if you have good questions or if you're paying attention. Or if you start to drowse a little bit, you're a little sleepy, you're thinking this guy, he's bald, he's boring, he's got all the B's, I will throw candy at you. If I hit you in the head and you're a girl, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm not as accurate as I once was. I played baseball like Dr. Longshore, but those years are long gone. So I want to ask you a question. Who here would like to earn $1 million in your lifetime? Raise your hand. It's okay. You can do it. I'm not afraid. That's actually not that much money. That's $50,000 a year for 20 years. Seriously, every hand should have been up. So who here would like to earn $1 million in a year? Yeah, that's good hands. All right, how about this one? Who would like to give away $1 million in your lifetime? Yeah, there you go. You got to earn it to give it away, generally, unless you're stealing it. The government does it all the time. It's not that hard. Who would like to give away $1 million in 1 year? Yeah, baby. See, that's it. See, it was a lot easier to get your hand up. Once you get a little practice, it's not hard. So I want to talk about godly ambition because we live in a society today where everyone talks about work-life balance. We talk about retirement as kind of this goal that our whole point of work is to stop working, right? That's what, I mean, and we had a whole generation. They showed up to work so they could earn enough money so they could stop working. And I think that actually comes back to your eschatology. If you think that there's no point, you're just trying to live it out until you make it to heaven, you're not trying to make the world a better place, that shows up in work. I want to work, earn enough money that I can retire when I'm 50 years old and I can go to the Bahamas, get skin cancer, and die. Amazing. Like that, I feel like we can do better as Christians. So I want to talk about that today. Verse I want you to be thinking about, Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man who excels in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men. So we want to focus on this. So let's talk about ambition. This is the Marxist dictionary, the American Heritage Dictionary. This is how they define ambition, which is an eager or strong desire to achieve something such as fame or power, right? And this is how the world thinks about ambition. You're doing it for yourself. You want fame and power. That's the point. End of story. A lot of people, they're like, well, then I don't want to be ambitious. I just want to get back to earn enough money, go to the Bahamas, die of skin cancer. And I think we can do a lot better than that. In fact, I'm going to recommend a book because I'm at NSA. I feel like you have to recommend a book. And you all would be disappointed if I didn't. Great book, Rescuing Ambition, and just thinking about how can we be godly and ambitious at the same time. If you are averse to setting ambitious goals, you are probably being lazy while thinking you're being a good Christian. Because it is very easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to be humble. And if I'm humble, then I'm going to be a good Christian. And that looks a lot like laziness. We are pursuers. That is what we do. God built us to pursue things. There's a lot of things you're going to pursue in life. And the question is, what are you going to pursue? So don't think that, oh, I'm just being humble. I'm not super ambitious. I'm not pursuing anything. You actually are pursuing something. You might just be pursuing selfishness. You might be burying your talents in the ground, but you're always pursuing something. And the reason why ambition is important, because let's think about it, like, and anytime you're like, okay, should I have ambition or not ambition? Your answer should always be, what does God tell me to do? Right? Pretty straightforward. Okay, so think about all the dominion mandates out there, and I'm going to hit some of these in a minute. There's we want to take over the world. We want to have lots of kids. We want to make it a garden city. We want to have we want to bring all nations under the lordship of Jesus Christ. That sounds super ambitious. And we are Christians, therefore we're commanded to build and create. We're supposed to do stuff, and not little things. We're supposed to do really big things. And it's easy, especially when you're a student and you're drowning in reading or papers or whatever you are, to just be very focused on what's in front of you rather than having a big, ambitious goal. And so that's part of the reason I want to talk about this today. Now is a good time for you to start being ambitious. Because, you always hear about the people who are like, as soon as I make $100,000 a year, I'll start tithing. And guess what? Then once they get there, well, as soon as I make $250,000 a year, then I'm going to start tithing. I'm going to be faithful at that moment. And so it's easy to think, I'm in school. I just need to show up, do my job, whatever it is, and then I'll be ambitious later. Once I get out of school, once I'm married, once I have a spouse that's pushing me to go do great things, then I'm going to put on my ambition shorts and be off to the races. But it's time for you to be ambitious today. And why does God tell us to be ambitious? Because work is actually good for your soul. My good friend David Bonson, who I think has been here not too long ago, just wrote a book called Full Time, and he talks about work builds dignity for people. It is the way that God gave, it's one of the tools that God gave us to build dignity for yourself, to make your soul better. If you read Nissim Talib's, one of his many books, I think this one is from Anti-Fragile, he says, it's interesting that if a human being, you'd think the safest spot for them to be would be in a bed, and then they'll never get hurt. So you just lay in bed for the rest of your life. You're never going to get hurt. That's the safest spot. But actually, your blood will pool, and you will die. And you won't get skin cancer, which is good. But your blood will pool, and you will die because God built our bodies to do things. We need work. We need friction. And if you don't do those things, your soul will get anemic, and your body will get anemic, and you'll die. And we don't want that. And I know that it feels like I'm coming back to death all the time, but I'm sorry. It's not really, it wasn't my goal. It just kind of went that way. You need to be working for your soul and for others. God doesn't need us, but he does need us to push ourselves because that's what God has called us to do. So that's why we're going to talk about ambition today. Who is this guy anyway? That was a fake introduction. I mean, it's what I sent you, I realized. This is the real thing. I actually climbed Everest without oxygen or the use of my legs. I am Dr. Merkel's best friend in the whole wide world. That might not be true. I did a push-up once. I've done a sit-up once. And I do my own haircuts. It's actually true. Okay. So why should you be ambitious? Let's start by, I don't know why I put that slide in. It was a moment of weakness, all right? Okay, why should you be ambitious? Is ambition a good thing? Okay, so when Satan tempted Jesus, were they real temptations, right? Were they real? Well, of course they were real temptations, or they weren't temptations. He wasn't like, hey, do you want this thing that you actually don't want, but I'm going to present it to you, and then it's really easy for Jesus to say, no thanks, I never wanted that anyway, right? No, Satan says, I will give you the nations if you bow down to me. Well, what does that mean? Christ wanted the nations, right? That's more ambitious than most of us will ever be. He wanted the nations. He wanted them under his kingship. So he was ambitious for the whole world. He was ambitious for every person that is his elect. He's ambitious for us, right? So it was a real temptation that Satan put in front of Jesus. He was ambitious. He wanted the kingdoms to come under his kingship, right? What's another example? Abraham was promised a way bigger goal by God than Abraham even imagined. Your children will be as the stars in the heavens, as the sand on the sea. All nations will be blessed through you. Well, that sounds a lot bigger than you're going to hit your Q4 goal this year. And hopefully I'm going to make enough money to retire, go to the Bahamas, and get skin cancer, right? So there are lots of biblical examples of really big, ambitious things that we should be striving for, and we should always be looking to Scripture. That's our pattern. That's the way that we should be thinking about anything, whether it's ambition or any other part of your life. Obviously, the Dominion Mandate, we want to go and make the world a beautiful place. And the Great Commission. He didn't say, go and baptize a couple folks. He didn't say, try and get your town if you can, maybe your state if you're particularly gifted. It's the whole world. It's all the nations under the headship of Jesus Christ. These are very, very big, ambitious goals. And as Christians, we sometimes forget that. We're like, I'm just doing my thing, and I'm going to show up to work. I'm going to work my 8 hours. I'm going to go home. I'll read books. Reading books is great. I already recommended a book. But we sometimes forget that we need to be the most ambitious people for taking the world for Jesus Christ, whether it's in business, whether it's in your family, whether it's in discipleship. We should be the most ambitious people. And there's lots of examples in Scripture of how we should be doing this. God is consistently more ambitious, easy for me to say. God is consistently more ambitious than we are. And I think we need to learn from that. We need to grow from that. Okay, so how could it go wrong? We all know this story. Notice I have a picture of money. This generally the 3 G's. When ambition goes wrong, the 3 G's. Gold, glory, and girls. That's it. Sorry. Those are the, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Those are the 3 G's. I can't help it. It's on the internet. So, but that's generally what people are going for. It's self-ambition. It's all about them. They want to make as much money as possible, girls. Let's talk. Judas was clearly ambitious. I believe that Judas betrayed Jesus because he wanted to trick Jesus into using his power that he'd seen to conquer the Romans and show off, and all of a sudden Judas is the treasurer for the most powerful kingdom in the world. And as we know from our federal government, if you collect the money and you're in the IRS, that's where the real money is. And that's, I think, what Judas was planning on. He was trying to be the IRS department for the most powerful ruler of the world. And that was, he was going after the gold glory and glory. So those were the G's that he was going after. And the problem is that when you start to live your life for approval, you start to live your life from approval. Approval is the whole point of your life, right? And this is why a lot of Christians will run away from ambition. They're like, I see how it goes badly. Just in the same way, alcohol can be used very, very badly. Guns can kill people. But that doesn't mean we should not do any of these things. And ambition is one of those things. It's dangerous. And we have sinful hearts. And so as Christians, we generally shy away from ambition because we know that it can go very, very badly. Okay? Haman was obviously ambitious. He wanted to rule the kingdom. That didn't turn out for him. And none of you want to get hanged, I'm pretty sure. And so you're like, I don't want to be ambitious. That's really easy. We live in a world where we see selfish ambition everywhere. Right? And that's part of what causes Christians to pull back and just say, you know what, I'm going to, me and my Bible, me and my family, I'm not trying to go out and conquer the world, push myself, strive in the same way. Right? Okay, who needs candy? I'm just going to start hucking them out there. That was a great catch. Let's see which one goes the farthest. Oh, yeah, baby. Candy break. Back to the presentation. Tell you what, that Hershey's goes pretty good. That was pretty fun to chuck. We're going to get back to the Hershey's in a minute. Okay, a couple other things. Calvin once wrote, ambition has been and still is the mother of all errors and of all disturbances and sex, right? So he understood ambition is very, very dangerous. It is a powerful tool, and it goes to your head in a hot minute. And so, again, this is why Christians come back from that. If you read René Girard, he explains much of human history in the context of sinful ambition and mimetic contagion, right? He realizes that human history is riddled with ambitious people who do horrible, sinful things, right? And so, again, I feel like I'm harping on this a lot. This is why Christians are afraid of being overly ambitious, because they know how it can go badly. And when it goes badly, it goes very, very badly. But we should have godly ambition. So what does it look like? Rhetorical question, but I want to see if you're listening. What does it look like to have godly ambition? So, first of all, godly ambition always starts with dying to self. And you should never excuse inactivity with humility. You should never excuse inactivity with humility. A lot of Christians will be like, well, I'm super humble. That's why I'm not studying my Bible so that I can be an elder at church someday. That's why I'm not starting a business that might cost my family everything. That's why I just have an easy job. That's why I'm doing easy things, because I'm humble. Well, don't confuse lack of activity with humility. You need to die to self to be ambitious in a godly way. There's no other way to actually be ambitious without sinning up a storm, unless you're dying to self. And you see this with entrepreneurs all over the place. You read George Gilder, he talks about entrepreneurs are people who are they are seeking to bless people at scale. And if they bless people at scale, then lo and behold, they get a bunch of money. That's just how the world works, right? But they have to die to self. It is really hard to start a business. It is really hard to start a college, to start a school, to start a church. Anytime you are going out there and being ambitious, you have to die to self, because it's going to be really, really hard. But the way that God built the world is when you seek deeply to bless other people. When you die to self, seek to bless other people, God built the world in such a way that that blessing will come back right around on your own head, okay? So that is really important. You need to set goals, and set really big goals. I don't want you to set goals like, well, I'm going to get out of bed 4 days this week, right? That's not a goal. That's a bad goal. Now, you can start with little steps, like I'm going to make my bed every day. Because even, that was a great talk. I don't know if you've seen it, it's on YouTube. The guy's like, look, if you've had a horrible day, at least when you come home at the end of the day, you've made your bed and you can see that, I did one thing right. So I would encourage you, make your bed every day. I do. It's important. Do it. When you become too humble to aspire, you stop being humble. Okay? When you become too humble to aspire to something great, then you actually are not humble anymore. You're taking pride in your laziness. Okay? And we want you to be world changers. Part of the reason you're at NSA, you're not here to just be really smart, although that will probably be accomplished. You're here to make a dent in the world, which means you need to get outside yourself and you need to go out and do amazing things. You think of the reformers. They died to self, and they had enormous amount of ambition for the church and what they wanted to see for the church, and it cost them a lot, all the time. And newsflash, we still remember their names, right? You think of every story think of the ambitious people and the not ambitious people. Think of the hobbits that went to Mordor. Like, we know their names. Think of the hobbits that stayed in Hobbiton. We don't know any of their names, right? So it's okay to be ambitious, right? Jesus was ambitious. He wanted to have all the nations. You should be ambitious. It's really, really important. But you need to set some big goals. Maybe it's as little as starting by making your bed every day, but I want you to think a little bigger than that in the long term. What are you going to do while you're in college? I'm not talking about when you get out of college. You should have big goals when you get out of college as well, but you need to make really big goals. Now, I will tell you, the temptation of young people is to make amazing goals and think about them a lot. Because it's fun to ideate, like, oh man, I'm going to buy Fox News and show them. Well, that's a great goal. I love that. But then you need to make a plan, right? And so just having a really, really big goal is important. Then you actually need to make a plan. And the problem is with young people, and not all of you are young, many of you are, is you get stuck on the goal side of things and don't go to the execution plan side of things. But that is just as important as setting big goals. It'd be better to set a goal that's achievable and you can go get and actually have a plan to go after, rather than starting with a goal that is way outside of your realm of possibility ever, right? Okay, so these are action items that you need to do over the weekend. What's your big goal that is beyond doing your schoolwork? Doing your schoolwork, that should be your first priority. Making your bed, that's a priority. Loving your family. The stuff they tell you at church, do those things first. But then what's your big goal? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to spearhead a music festival? Or do you want to do some street preaching? Do you want this town to come under the lordship of Jesus Christ? Well, set yourself a goal, something that is in line with your gifts and your abilities, and then make a plan that you can go out and do something about it, right? And again, it doesn't take that long. You can talk to your parents about it. You can talk to your friends about it. But make yourself a goal that is hard, and then go make a plan where you can go out and do something about it. And remember that God always brings the increase. And this is back to that top point. True humility is knowing that we can't do any of these things by ourselves. We are only doing them by the grace of God, through the grace of God. And if for a minute you think it's my own strength and brilliance that brought me to this point, that I have this huge goal and I have this huge plan, that's when it turns into bad ambition. So you need to be checking that at the door all the time. Make sense? Good. We're going to talk about business, but first, candy break. Sorry. I like candy too. I got a bunch of them. Sorry if it hurts. I don't mean to. All right, Hershey's, back row. Oh, baby. That's fun. See, you wish you sat in the front, you would have gotten more candy. Think about it. You don't know what's going to happen in this world. Okay, let's talk about business. What does it look like to be ambitious? And also, it's a sunny day outside, so I'm going to race through a little bit of this because, seriously, NSA students need sunshine. Am I right? Okay. This is, there's a huge job board. I'll call it a competitor, even though they think they're a competitor of RedBalloon, but they're not even in my league. They have 600 million people on their site every month, so really close to what RedBalloon's doing. So, but Indeed.com does not want, and they're one of many, do not want God in the workplace. So this is a construction company in Texas, although Erber Auto got the same response when they tried to post jobs on Indeed. They described themselves as freedom-loving and God-fearing, and Indeed canceled them and said, you may not post jobs with us because that's a violation of community standards. So don't think for a minute that the people who are running a lot of the businesses and the world aren't ambitious. They're ambitious for all the wrong things. And the problem is Christians are so afraid of bad ambition, of sinful ambition, that they're not as ambitious, and all of a sudden the tech giants are running a lot of the world right now. And they absolutely have an agenda, and they're absolutely ambitious for what they're trying to do. So, redeeming the world of work. As a Christian, so that's what the bad guys are doing with ambition in the world of work. I want you to focus on being a godly Christian, and I'm going to make a pitch to you that one of your goals should be to start a business. Okay? And you think, oh, I'm not that person. I don't know if I can do a business. Stop it. I bet you can. So let me lay it out for you. Start with why. Have you guys seen Simon Sinek's Start With Why? Anybody raise your hand if you've seen it? Some of you, not very many. Okay. Look, I don't know if I'm allowed to assign homework. I'm going to, and I will have no way to check on whether you did it or not. So here's your homework. There's a YouTube of Simon Sinek explaining starting with why. And what he says is that every great business ever started with why. What's the fundamental thing they're trying to accomplish? They're trying to, and he described it this way, Apple Computer, even though I do not like Apple Computer. I mean, they're fine. I've got an iPhone and a watch. But Apple Computer, they didn't start with, hey, we're going to make a bunch of computers. They started with, we want to create technology that fundamentally moves people. Well, that feels very nebulous, but that was fundamentally what they were trying to do. For RedBalloon, we want to redeem the world of work. We feel like work needs to be redeemed, and work is such a defining feature of everyone's life. Think about it. When you meet someone new, you ask them, what do you do? And you're asking them what they are doing for work. And we want to redeem that. We want people to be free at work. We want people to be godly at work because we are called to vocations, and there's a lot of literature on this that I won't go into, but we're trying to redeem the world of work. So when you're starting with a business, you always start with why. What am I fundamentally trying to accomplish? Then you go into the how. How am I going to accomplish that task? And then what? What am I actually going to sell to the marketplace, right? It's actually really straightforward. He does a great talk. It's better than this one just because he focuses on that. Otherwise, my talk's way better. But when Christians are thinking about starting businesses, we should be the best at it because we have the best why. We are trying to redeem the world. We are trying to bring everything under the headship of Jesus Christ. And that should include business. That should include the marketplace. That should include every little idea, whether it's coffee shop or pizza shop, or you want to make software or apps or widgets or whatever. We should be redeeming this, and we're Christians, so we should have the best why. Also, we are Christians, which means we know who created the whole world. And so we should be focused on imitating our Father who created, and we are mini creators that need to be out there creating things, okay? So you have the best why to start a business. And as Simon Sinek says, every great business starts with a why. We are trying to do things for others. We're trying to die to self. We're trying to bless others. We're trying to bless the marketplace. And if you're fundamentally trying to do that, you will be successful at business, and you will have way more fun doing it, okay? When you get to work, you need to act like a Christian. There's a lot of things that I've pushed on over the years as a Christian. You need to not talk behind each other's back. That can apply here to school. You need to be straightforward and talk to people directly. You need to enjoy alcohol and never get drunk. You need to be fundamentally Christian and seek to bless your customers in the world of work. I already talked about that. Be a mini creator. You also need to manage people as though they are an everlasting soul. And I know that sounds pretty funny, but if you start a business, you are now in an interesting position of management over someone. And I will tell you, you can deal with sin in someone's life in a fundamentally different way when you sign their paycheck, right? Because I have had employees over the years who, I had a gentleman who struggled with anger. And I knew this because he got angry at everyone at work. And it's funny how sin doesn't stay in nice confined boxes. If you're sinning at work, you're probably sinning at home. If you're sinning at school, you're also probably sinning at home. If you're sinning at home, it's probably going to slop into your work life, right? And so I saw an anger problem with this man, and I have this lever. So-and-so, I'm not going to say his name, so-and-so. If you don't deal with this problem, if you don't go and get pastoral help with your anger problem, I will fire you. And I will fire you quickly. You are on one strike, you're out kind of rule right now. Well, guess what? He dealt with it. I found out later that many pastors, family members, and others had gone to him and said, you need to deal with this anger. He's like, yeah. But I had his attention in a totally different way because, again, I signed his paycheck. So when you're thinking about starting a business, you're not just doing it because you want to make the most money. Remember, ambition isn't just for yourself, it's for others. You have the opportunity to employ people and make them better people because they work for you. You are managing and directing everlasting souls. And sometimes you need to fire people. And that's okay because I've had people come to me after I fired them and say, you know what? That was a kick in the pants that my marriage needed because I was not being disciplined and honest at home, and you called me out at work, cost me my job, and I realized there are significant consequences for this undealt with sin in my life, right? And so it is a really cool thing to be an employer. The second reason you should start a business is you will be a community leader in a way that you don't realize. And I realize that's not an end to itself, but you will have people like city council members and mayors and church leaders that want to talk to you because you've started a business, because you've been ambitious. And you want to do that so you can speak the gospel in all of these different areas, right? And if you are in your library all the time, and again, I'm not opposed to being in your library and reading a lot of books, that's fantastic, but if you're out doing things that are hard and creating jobs for other people, then you have a voice in a way that no one else does. Another quick story on this front, I just had a meeting with a Moscow tattoo parlor who has been hating Christ Church and everything we're doing for a long time. But he's like, I see all the things that you've been doing in this community, and they're all good for the community. So I'd love to have a beer and talk about it. And it was a great conversation. But that doesn't happen if I'm not ambitious out there doing stuff. Okay? Let me give you a couple other examples of businesses that have been started by Christians who have started with a great why. And I hope that this is just inspiring to you so that you go out and think about this. Robert Netzley. Robert Netzley was the head of investment banking for Wells Fargo in Carmel, California. He worked with very, very wealthy people. He was making a lot of money. He had a really nice house. He had a wife and 2 kids, and she was pregnant with number 3. And he woke up one day and realized that the stocks that he was investing in were making abortion drugs. So he was investing in companies that were killing babies. And he was making a return on his investment every time a baby died. And so he's like, I can't do it anymore. And he had a messy 2 weeks in which he tried to push back and got fired, did not have a severance, had a house payment, and didn't know what he was going to do. But he had to do the right thing. But he's like, okay, God, you've laid this thing on my heart. I need to go out and do amazing things. I can't do this anymore. What do you have for me? But he was ambitious, and so he started Inspired Investing. And he lives down in Boise now. He now has $6 billion under management. They are investing in companies that don't support the LGBTQ community, that don't support abortion, and actually focus on Christian values in the business. And his investment thesis is if you focus on actually caring about your people and not all these little sideshows of alphabet soup, you're probably going to do better in your business, right? Fantastic. He was super ambitious and he had a why, right? His why was, I cannot do this. I cannot kill babies anymore with my investments, right? And he basically brought it down to that point. Another example, Public Square. A good friend of mine during the pandemic was like, wonder what coffee shops I could go to that don't require a mask because I think that's covering up the image of God and I don't want to wear a mask. So he makes a list for he and his wife. And then his friends are like, hey, can you hand me that list? He's like, well, I'll make an app and put it in that app. And they're like, okay, well, can you do other types of businesses, not just coffee shops? And he's in the San Diego area. So he makes an app out of it. He starts sharing it around to friends. And all of a sudden he expands to California. And all of a sudden he expands to lots of other businesses. And every business on that app needed to say that they will protect the freedom of every American, including the unborn, because abortion was such a big deal for him, including the masks and the vaccination mandates and all that stuff, right? So he makes this app. Well, now there are 82,000 businesses on that app. He just went public, and the business is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But he had a why. He was trying to bless other people, and he was focusing on holding true on his principles. I have lots of other stories of Liberation Tech and Patmos that I won't go into because, again, it's sunny outside. But there are lots of whys out there, and you as Christians need to have the best why. Go be ambitious, pick a goal, and go after it. Obviously, hire well. Speaking of which, when you're starting a business, that is, and go to RedBalloon. Speaking of which, there's a career fair coming up, and RedBalloon, RedBalloon's going to be working with NSA to make this one extravagant. If you've been to a career fair at NSA before, it will be totally different. So come, if you were disappointed last time, there's a good reason. It's going to be amazing this year. We are going, just straight up, that's the way it is. It's going to be April 5th. It's going to be during Disputatio. There will be a lot of employers there, and the price of admission for the employers is to bring stuff to give away to students. What? Is that true? Yes, it is true. They will either have lots of small things or a couple of really big things that they will be doing raffles for. So you should come to the career fair. It will actually be a lot of fun. RedBalloon is going to make it amazing. With NSA, we're now good buddies. As you know, there's also this alumni database. Remember, I'm Dr. Merkel's best friend. There's this alumni database out there. So over 200 of you have filled out your profile in the RedBalloon alumni database, and we are going to be launching it to an employer near you very soon. We only have one in there because we haven't actually launched it, but then those employers will be able to reach out to you and start building relationships. Many of those employers will be at the career fair, and you can meet them face to face. If you have not filled out a job seeker profile, and this is for internships over the summer, plus jobs while you're in school, you can go to redballoon.work/NSA. And if you don't know what NSA stands for, I'm sorry. Employers, if you have people at home, if you have friends and families who have always wanted to hire NSA students for summer internships, for whatever, they can go to redballoon.work/hireNSA. Ta-da. And that's where they can actually go and look through the resume database and start to reach out to you and offer you extravagant jobs with amazing benefits, and then you'll make a ton of money and be super duper ambitious. Got it? Okay, so a couple of homework items for you. Go set a big goal and make a plan for it. Don't just set a big goal and do nothing about it. If you want, optional, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I think it's interesting. Redeeming Ambition, great book. And come to the career fair at the end of, in the beginning of April. It will be the best decision you've ever made in your entire life. And I think as I announced before, if you want to get married, you might think about coming to the career fair. You'll get a great job. Fathers like that kind of thing. So, whoops. Okay. I am now going to take some questions from you. Yes? Thank you.
Got it. Okay, so I guess my question is, you're recommending us all start our own businesses, but businesses need employees, and they need good employees who have dedicated their lives to a solid skill. You
Yes.
don't become a master carpenter overnight. That's something that's developed over a long time. So is this just because we have a dearth of Christians going into business, or is there something, I guess, where are master carpenters coming from?
Right. Legitimate question, because if all of you start a business, you can't hire each other, or you can try and hire each other, and then it's a bidding war. It'd be amazing. There's a church in Orlando, Florida, that is Hispanic, and since COVID, they've started 52 businesses in their church community, and they're hiring lots of things. I'll be honest, I'm playing the odds that not all of you are going to start a business, and then you'll hire each other. That's just the way it is. That's okay, but even if you have a job, I would encourage you to have a side gig. Push yourself a lot. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just going to tell you. I'm an elder at Christ Church. I'm on the Logos board. I'm on the ACCS board. I'm doing a housing development that's a like $10 million project and is like more than a full-time job. I have a bunch of commercial real estate. I started RedBalloon. I have 5 kids. And I did a push-up once. So you can do more than one thing. So you could have a full-time job as a master carpenter, and you can have a side gig that maybe isn't designed to make money, but it's designed to bless other people, right? And I think that's part of my encouragement. You have more in the tank than you think you do. And if you die with anything left in the tank, you don't get a refund. Think about that. What's the next question?
If you were an NSA student right now, name 2 jobs that you'd start, given the circumstances and the...
Yeah, if you were an NSA student right now, two businesses that you might start. So what are you good at? So there's 2 things when you're thinking about starting a business. What are you good at? A, and then B, what's a problem that you have every day and you think other people have the same problem, right? Good entrepreneurs just die to self. So think through what's the most annoying part of your day, and then figure out, does anybody else have that same annoying part of their day? For me, it's doing my hair. Super annoying. Not true. So there are Etsy businesses you can create, and actually you can make great money. If you have creative ideas, you can sell T-shirts online, and you might only make $3 or $4 per T-shirt, but you can have the and I know you're like, really, another T-shirt company? Look, do you know how many terrible T-shirts out there and Christians should be the funniest people who make the best T-shirts. You can make a design, you can get someone who will print it and deliver it to your customer, and then you can market it. And you won't make a ton of money. You might. I think Rory Wilson did a cancellation T-shirt in Latin, and he made like $10,000 one summer selling T-shirts. Like, it was crazy. And that was just something he just did. And then he made a video, and it was amazing. So you can just come up with a creative idea. The infrastructure's out there for you to do that. The second one I would say is something where you're serving other people, because particularly guys, you need hard work, physical hard work, and chopping wood or raking leaves or mowing lawns. I know you are a smart NSA student, and that's below you, but guess what? It might not be. And the sun is coming out, and so you can shovel snow during the winter, and you can mow lawns during the summer, and you can be blessing people, and then when you get really good at it, you start hiring your friends, and then they do the work, and then you just go to door and start selling it, and all of a sudden you're like a shoveling mogul, and you're like driving up the Rolls Royce at NSA, and people are like, what is this? You don't know. Next question. Yes? Absolutely. Great question. So everybody heard that? I don't need to repeat it. Fantastic. So you have a normal job, not a cool job at RedBalloon like some of you do, but the rest of you, you're stuck at other jobs that are less cool. And then what do you do with those less cool jobs? Well, you have an opportunity. Let me put it this way. If you're a contractor and you show up when you say you're going to show up, you do what you say you're going to do, and you do it for the price you say you're going to do it for, you will be in the top 1% of whatever field you're in, just because you're a reliable, hardworking person who takes responsibility for what's in front of you. If you're in the work environment, and so I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I worked for a .com that had nothing to do with Christianity. I got opportunities because I worked there, because I just worked really hard and tried to die to self. I got to go all over the world when I was 19 years old. I was running a team. It was amazing. And I got to share the gospel with people all the time. They're like, okay, so why are you so joyful all the time when things go bad, right? And so you can be ambitious in your job, no matter what your job is. You can be ambitious at school, right? Everything you're in, you should be ambitious, and that ambition should be the godly ambition that's not about you, it's about blessing others. And if you're doing that, when you're singing in a concert, I heard the beautiful singing up here, like you are blessing other people with that. If it's all about you, then that's just sinful ambition. If it's about blessing other people and I'm going to be the best at this no matter what, then it's the godly ambition. Does that make sense? Cool? Okay. Another question? Yes?
Do you have any tips for how to get your logo well known?
Any tips on how to get your logo well known? I mean, honestly, social media is a really weird thing. I'm on Twitter, not because I like it, but because it seems like X, sorry. I'm not on Facebook, so many of you may have reached out to me. Anyway, I'm not on Facebook, really. But social media is a really cheap way for you to get your word out there. And again, it's interesting because it's all about how do you bless other people with really interesting content. You create great content, people are like, oh, that's really interesting. And then say, I've blessed you, would you bless me, and share this around. And so it's word of mouth, it's a lot of hard work, but if you bless people, that's how God built the world. Bless people with great content, and then they're going to want to tell other people about your content. That's just how God built the world. So social media is just, it's a tool, and just like ambition, it also has a dark side. Okay, I'm going to say last question. Yes?
What would your advice for ambition in young women specifically?
Yes, ambition in young women. I could spend the next long period on that because you need to be absolutely ambitious for what God has given you to do. Right now you're in school, you need to be ambitious for that. You need to be earning money because, Lord willing, you'll be married someday and your husband will be grateful that you have extra money that you're bringing to the table. And never mind, I shouldn't say that. If you're thinking about your education and your skills, okay, what are education and skills would be amazing if I want to be a mom and a wife? Well, I should learn accounting, and I could take on a part-time accounting job while I'm in school because then I can help the finances of my house, and I can earn extra money. That's a very easy job to do part-time while being a mom. My personal bookkeeper, Susanna Knittel, is amazing. She is a mom of 5, probably. And she is extraordinary, and she does that between being a mom. It's a great way for her to supplement her income, and it's a real blessing to me to have a part-time bookkeeper. So ambition should be always directed at others and not yourself, and it should be future others as well. How can I bless my kids with the skills and the abilities that I'm building today? And that goes for men and women. As husbands, you need to be the type of people, I'm sure other people have said this, but if you imagine the type of person you want to marry, think, am I the type of person that they would want to marry? And if the answer is no, then you need to be more ambitious, die to self, and go out and do more stuff. Okay? All right, it's a sunny day. I'm really grateful. I'll stay around for a little bit if you have specific questions, but I do not want to be the thing between you and the sunshine. Anything else?
No, we're going to sing. We'll clap for you.
Oh, that's it.